Hi everyone, thanks for tuning in again. So I've got a little bit of news or an update for you. You may have seen from my Facebook and Instagram that I've become one of the pro tyers for Fullingmill. So I'm really excited to be part of the brand. It's a really exciting time to be part of the team with all the new materials and threads and flosses that they've brought out. So I thought I'd tie a nice little Perdigon pattern for you today. So this is the Sunburst Perdigon. So I've utilised some of Fullingmill's new threads for this one. So for the body, I'm going to use our 70 denier Pro flat thread in brown olive. These are completely different colours to what you'd see with some of the other manufacturers on the market. Got a really nice sheen to them. And for the rib, I'm going to utilise our new Pro Floss. So these are great. They come in 110 denier, 340 denier. So with the 340, you don't need to double or triple your tail. So for flies like blowtorches, pink tags, red tags, you're not having to double that floss up to get the thickness of tail that you want. So you definitely need to get some of these in your collections. So without further ado, let's jump straight into the tying. So in the vise, we've got a jig force short in a size 22 with a 3.3mm chocolate jig off bead. So really like these jig force shorts, use them for all my Perdigons and a couple of other patterns, but predominantly Perdigons, like the short shank and the wide gape, get really good hookups with them. So definitely recommend you getting some of these. So first thing I'm going to do is come in with some GSP. So I'm asked quite a bit why I use GSP to put my tails in. So I do that because I find if I was to do it in something like a 70 denier, I'm creating 2 extra beds by the time I've actually tied the tail in. So I'll find using a really small, thin GSP, I get a lot slimmer body. So I definitely recommend doing it this way, but you can tie the fly how you wish. So I'm going to come in with some Coq de Leon. I'm going to pull it 90 degrees from the stem to line my tips up. And this is the Medio, so like a medium Pardo. Only 4 or 5 fibres, if that. I like it with a really short tail, so I'm just going to measure it. And I'm going to tie it right in on the top of the shank. I'm just going to check the length, so it's a little bit longer than I'd like. So I'm just going to pull it short, like so. And then I'm going to grab the butt ends, or the tips, and then tie that down right on top of the shank. So I'll get it right to just before the bend, and then I'm going to tie back up to the bead, cut out my butt sections, and then I'm going to just whip finish, and I'm going to whip finish this so that the thread's at the top behind that sort of recess of the bead. So I can cut that out, and that'll just mean that all my little tag ends that I've cut are all going to be hidden. So the next material I'm going to come in with is some of the Pro flat thread in 70 denier in brown olive. So I'm going to whip that in just behind the bead with 3 or 4 turns, cut my butt ends out, and then I'm going to tie in a single strand of the 110 denier Pro Floss. So this is in a fluorescent Sunburst. So I'm going to pull that under the thread and pull it onto my side of the shank, and just keep hold of my thread and pull it down behind the bead. And then I'm just going to counter spin my thread to flatten it, and I'm going to take that right down to where we finished tying in the tail. And I'm just going to create a really subtle taper. Don't want to build up too much bulk. I want to keep this as nice and slim as I can. So just make sure it's all nice and neat. So a couple more turns there just to level it off a little bit. So that should now do me. So now I'm going to spin the thread up. I'm going to take a little bit of fly tying wax, and that'll just help when I go to actually tie the floss off so that it doesn't slip. I'm going to take a hackle plier, and I'm going to cord this floss up with some clockwise turns just to make sure it's all nicely corded. so I can create a nice rib. And I'm going to counter rib this, so I'm going to go the opposite way so that I've tied my thread in. And you're only going to want 4-5 turns, nice open even turns. So that's 2, 3, and the last one should take me just to the bead, like so. I'm going to lock that in, so I'm going to tie across it and behind it, and across it and behind it again. Lift it up so that my cut is directly behind that recess of the bead again. So I'm going to apply a little bit more fly tying wax to the thread, and that'll just help when I do my whip finish. That's occasionally you can get it, it'll slip down. So I'm going to invert my fly. I'm going to do sort of a 3-turn whip finish, and then I'm going to nip that off again right behind the back of the bead. So now last thing to do is just put a bit of UV resin on it. So I'm going to be using some of the Raidzap in thin. So this is perfect for Perdies. So you don't want too much, just going to take a little bit of that and just nicely coat the body fully. So make sure I've got a nice coverage all over. So I'm now going to just make sure it's all nicely level and that every single bit's covered, which it is now. So I'm just going to spin it so it doesn't dribble and give it a quick cure. So that should do us for the body now. And then I'm just going to reposition my fly. I'm going to angle it down slightly, and we're going to put a wing case in. So this is using the Black Widow. So this is perfect for wing buds and wing cases. So I always angle my fly down because that just helps the resin settle nicely for the wing case. So don't want too much. I've got a little air bubble there, so I'm just going to make sure that's taken away. And another one. So before I actually put the resin on, I want to make sure I've got full resin. So I'm just going to drop that in like that. Got a bit much, so I'm just going to even it out a little with a dab and then quickly cure it so it doesn't run everywhere because it is quite thin. And then finally, just going to make sure everything's belt and braces and fully cured. So I'm just going to reposition my fly back to normal and just give the whole thing another full cure. So that should do us. Yeah, I'm happy with that now. So that's the fly completed. Hope you enjoyed the video. It's definitely one you want to get in your boxes, guys. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you again shortly. All the best.